All right, Kyle. Here's the big question that I want to ask you. Okay, and I think that most ELF fans are curious about. You have made a big move this offseason, going from Berlin, from the Berlin Thunder the last couple of seasons, transferring over to the Hamburg Sea Devils. Can you walk me through that decision process, why you decided to leave Berlin and go to Hamburg this year?
So what happened was when the when a couple guys from the management team left, it started to go a little different. And the new management team not was not being cooperative with me. So instead of just instead of just going back and forth, fighting back and forth, we just decided to just say, hey, let's just step away. Let's just do all the paperwork to just step away. Then Coach Shu and Coach Lee was going to Hamburg, which I'm very close with these guys. We know each other for 5 years almost, and because we started off in Hildesheim with each other, and now we just a long term friendship. It's like a big old happy family somehow, some way. And so Coach Lee hit me up, and then Coach Shuan hit me up, and it was like, "Hey, would you be interested in coming to Hamburg?" It was no second chance. It was no second thought. It was just like, "Let's go, let's go repeat. Let's just go get this team back together." So that's the best thing, and now it's just like the best decision I have made so far in my elf career.
Hey, bro, I'm gonna say you look good in that navy blue and the Hamburg colors and all the Hamburg stuff behind you right now. It looks good on you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's good. I did want to ask because was it? I mean, you said it was a pretty easy decision once you knew the coaches that you had relationships were going to Hamburg. But I remember at the ELF honors, you gave a really nice speech after you won Defensive Player of the Year for the what was it the third time. And you gave a really nice speech, kind of appreciating the people at Berlin and the organization that you worked with the last couple of years. Was it difficult at all to get to leave that organization, or are you just totally excited and hey, it's the right time for you to move on?
Yes, it's very difficult because I'm always gonna have love for my fans. I'm always gonna have love for the people who come and support. I'm always gonna have love for my teammates. We went 3 years with each other, battle on and off the field, so I'm always gonna have love for them. It just certain things just didn't add up to where we could just come with an agreement. So it's just head, time for me to go to discover new opportunities.
Discover new opportunities. I like that, man. So I'm wondering, you've won every individual award in the ELF, right? We just said you've been the Defensive Player of the Year 3 times. You've been an ELF All-Star 4 times, I believe. You got a couple records. I think last year you set the most sacks in a single season. And is winning a championship what kind of drives you now? Does that play into the part of leaving and going to a new organization where you feel okay, because Hamburg's putting together some nice pieces, man, and you guys are going to be in the conversation. So is winning a championship at the top of your mind what drives you now after getting every individual award possible?
Yes, that's the whole mindset. Winning a championship, trying to get the core all together to winning the whole thing. Because what's the point of playing football if you're just gonna care about your individual goals? It's all about the team goals, and everybody sharing the same trophy, same experience together. It's good with the individual goals, but it's better when you holding up the championship because everything plays a part. The organization, the coaches, the team, the staff, the people behind the scenes, all that, and everybody get to just hold up that one big old trophy.
Yeah, bro, I mean, you're so right there. I think even that brings me back to what you were just saying. Josh Allen obviously just won the MVP in the NFL at the NFL honors, and he gave a speech where he basically said something really similar to what you said right there. He's like, yeah, it is an individual award, but also there's so many people in an organization that do work all the way down to the mailroom, all the way down to the equipment staff. And there's a lot of people involved in success on the football field, whether it be individual awards like Defensive Player of the Year or a championship trophy that maybe, hopefully, the Hamburg Sea Devils will be in a conversation with this year. Who are you excited to be teammates with the Hamburg Sea Devils coming up?
I'm excited to have my boy Rudy Young back, Dion, the corner.
Yep.
Excited to have Levi the tight end. He's
Nice.
very great leader and everything. I'm excited to have my boy Felix. He came with me from Berlin and everything. And most of all, I'm excited to have my brother, Terrion Robinson, who just
Oh,
signed,
yeah.
came out. So I'm excited to have him. And I have a couple other players from the Hildesheim area that's coming back. Well, I say y'all coming back out of retirement, so they coming back into the show, and just excited for everybody really. But I have a couple guys that
Yeah.
we just built a bond closer than ever.
How about Coach Fatah? Because that was pretty big news. That was a pretty big deal for Hamburg because obviously Hamburg has not in the last couple seasons. They won the championship were in the championship a few years ago, but the last couple seasons kind of lackluster years, not so successful. But Coach Fatah being signed by Hamburg, that was big news, and I think helping get some of these pieces. Can you talk a little bit about him and what he brings to the Sea Devils?
He brings leadership. That's one thing that's hard to find out of many coaches. I know in last year, my coach, Coach Johnny, had the same leadership as Coach Schumann. And another thing he brings is he can speak to Americans, but he also can take care of the Germans and speak to Americans and Germans in dual. So that's the best thing. So when you can communicate in both languages, it gets players like Americans to come and buy into the system. It gets players like the Germans to really follow your leadership, follow your structure, and follow your plan. So that's the best thing. Them the top 2-3 things that he brings to the team and the organization.
I love that, what you just touched on, the ability to relate to and communicate well with both the American imports and also the German homegrown guys and also whatever European imports you have, because, you know, it could be situations where a coach is better at communicating with one type of player or another. So that's a really, really big thing. I do want to point back to the Berlin Thunder season last year because it was pretty impressive. You guys were in some of these big games against the best teams. You guys were very competitive against the Rhine Fire, against the Vienna Vikings, and against Paris. And those were 3 of the 4 semifinal teams. But somehow, you know, you were leading at certain points in those games too, but somehow you guys were unable to come away with the victory. What was the problem last year where you guys were not able to come away with the victory in some of these close games? Because you were very competitive.
I think one was we got hit with the injury bug early in the season. A lot of players went down. One of our linebackers went down, Paul Cipher.
Yeah.
One of our better wide receivers, Robin, went down. And so you're asking a lot to do for just basically the Americans. A couple other guys went down. Like we had linebackers. We only had probably like 3 or 4 linebackers throughout the whole season. Our D line was going down, and on top of that, our offensive line was going down too.
Yep.
So,
change was fucking awesome.
so a lot of pieces was going down to help us to like basically destroy us from winning those games, and also the teams that we was going against were playoff contender teams. So they knew what it meant to be down in anything and also fight their way back. You had Vienna, who won the F Championship 2022, and then you had Ryan Fire, who won 2024 and 2023. They went back to back. So they knew what it meant to, they had already the championship mindset to being down, and they knew nothing could like stop them from coming back up. So they already knew, hey, we're going to go into halftime, we're going to make some adjustments, and we're going to fight our way back up, which is very good props to them. And also Paris, they are always going to be a playoff contender team, so they already know, hey, we're building to something, to a championship. You're going to be down. We got to figure out how to come back and finish the games.
Yep. I love that, man. I mean, that's one of the best life lessons, I think, that people can actually take away from football. When you're down and things aren't looking great, to not give up and be able to kind of fight through adversity. And that is the sign of a very high-level kind of championship contender team. And I bet that's the type of attitude that you're going to be bringing to Hamburg this year. Speaking still of like your experience in the ELF, who are some of the best or most slippery quarterbacks, hardest quarterbacks to sack? I mean, you make a living getting sacks, Kyle, but some of those quarterbacks are probably a little bit more elusive and harder to bring down. Any guys come to mind that you've played against in the ELF?
I say all of them are hard to bring down. Like you got Clark, who has good pocket awareness, so he's dodging a lot and figuring out where the pressure is coming in. Zach Edwards, who everybody knows, he's 6'4", 6'5". He's hard to bring down. He also weighs probably, I want to say 100 to 105 kilos or 225 pounds. And he's hard to bring down. Sullivan was hard to bring down because he has unnecessary speed. Yeah. So if he breaks away, he could easily gain another 40 yards just by his speed. Also, Ben Holmes was hard to bring down because he has unnecessary speed too, which is very sneaky. Bro. You would not expect it, but he is very fast for a guy who just like who barely can see over the offensive line, but he can find a way to get out of there.
Bro, I've seen a couple of Ben Holmes just slipping away and taking off for 40 yards. I'm like, damn, this man is he's quick. Yeah, those guys that you mentioned, they are all pretty talented. But I think that you've still been able to have some success bringing some of those guys down. How about offensive lines in the ELF? Who has impressed you the most, or who's given you the biggest challenges? Whether it be a team, an entire team offensive line, or an individual offensive lineman?
I'd say Ryan Fire offensive line. As you could tell, they won the championship, so
pretty good.
They deserve it.
Yep.
Vienna offensive line. They was very good with it, and I would say Paris, and I would not mind Poland offensive line. I like their offensive line because they're very feisty.
Yeah,
they might be small, they might be probably not the average height, but they would do everything they have in their power to stop you from getting to their quarterback.
Dude, hey, sorry to interrupt. Keep going.
From the center, he's probably shorter than anything I know, but he fights to the hardest. Rafa, he fights to the hardest. And you need players like that on your offensive line.
Yeah.
And as a complete group, though, Ryan Fire and Vienna. And, of course, Paris also has Coach Booker, who's coaching the offensive line, too, every day, and they're getting better, dangerous.
Well, it's interesting that those are the teams that you noted have the most impressive offensive line because, like we said, those are the teams that made it to the semifinals. Just that's how important the trenches are in football, man. I mean, just both on the offensive side and the defensive side. Where are you the most comfortable, or what spot on the line do you feel most comfortable and excited to line up? Do you like being on the interior? You like being on the edge? You like being in a 3-point, or you like standing up off the edge? Where do you feel the most comfortable?
I think it just depends on the defense.
Okay.
So what's the defense? Give me a defense first.
But give me everything any situation you feel more comfortable with. You walk me through it. Give me your whole repertoire.
So we going to 4-down linemen.
Okay.
I prefer the edge, the end. Okay, standing up. But if it goes into a passing down, I prefer to move into the 3 technique.
Okay.
So that way I can get to the quarterback faster. They have to slide protection and everything. If we are in a 3-man down lineman, this is where the catch is. I like to be 5 yards off the ball in time the snap coming up. Now, I did that back in college a little bit where I was off the line running up in time to snap. And, of course, it's a lot that you have to focus on when you have a D tackle in the shade 4-eye coming upfield with my speed coming off the edge. So it still turns down to a 4-down lineman.
Right.
It's how you put it into the system. So
Kyle,
where
you're dangerous everywhere. That's interesting. That's interesting that you prefer to be in a 3-tech in passing situations. I know a lot of guys like to be kind of more out there on the edge. Can you go into a little bit more detail on that? What do you find to be so comfortable about being inside a little bit?
because your tackles are pretty much your strong guys.
Yep.
Okay, they're pretty much your strong guys. They're pretty much your better blockers throughout the whole line. Your center is more likely the smartest. He's the smartest. He calls the line. He calls wherever everything is at. Hey, you have 4 down linemen. You have 2 high. You have all this. That's your center. The guards are pretty much the helpers.
Okay.
So you have to figure out which guard is the helper. Because if he's the helper, now he becomes more isolated in a one-on-one battle. So if he becomes more isolated in a one-on-one battle, now that changed the whole scheme. Because your center is always going to call who's the strongest, who's the might.
Right.
And depending on if they go in 10 personnel, now you got to watch out for this running back to come off, the running back to start chipping you, which been every top pass rusher always get the slide protection to him.
Mm-hmm.
So now, if you have an edge rusher that's just as fast as you that can just go upfield, if he just goes upfield, now you basically have to beat 2 guys because the center is going to automatically slide to you. Mm-hmm. You have to beat 2 guys going backwards, and then the guard is the helper, which is isolated. So now they got to run backwards while you're running forward as fast as you can. And that's why I like going in a 3 technique to just mess up the offensive line.
Oh. I mean, if any offensive linemen are listening to this, they're just shaking, be like, God, I hope he doesn't do that to me. I hope I don't have to deal with this shit. What other defensive linemen? I know we talked about offensive linemen. Obviously, you are one of, or if not the top defensive lineman in the league, but what other defensive linemen around the league impress you? You see them on tape, or you've seen them from the sideline on the other team, like, damn, that dude knows what he's doing as well.
Okay, so for ends, I would have to go with Stanley from Paris.
Okay, yeah.
Stanley. I like Leon. I always love Leon from Vienna. Mm-hmm. Donker. Aaron Donker, for sure. Definitely one of your top pass rushers in the league. And it's so many guys I just can't think of the names right now. So
yeah, no, those are that's a good slate of characters that you just listed right there. All ballers and all dangerous for offensive linemen.
So I might be getting a little shit from them in a minute. So
nah, bro, you good. How about off the field, Kyle? Going from Berlin to Hamburg. I know you haven't been in Hamburg. Or how long have you been in Hamburg now?
1 month.
Just 1 month. So it's relatively new for you, right? But off the field, how are you finding the city? How do you like it, especially compared to Berlin that's been your home the last couple of years?
So right now it's just been cold. It's snowing outside right now.
Bro, it's snowing here too. It's freezing.
So right now it just been work back home because I couldn't really experience it. But it's some good areas, like they have the beach. So that's a good area. They have a water, so that's pretty much fine. Remind me of being in like Potsdam type of thing with the water around you and surrounding you. So hopefully when it gets warmer and everything, I start walking around a little bit more.
Yeah,
but
bro.
For a city that's raining a lot and cold, it's a beautiful city.
Yeah.
And it's nice.
I think Hamburg is actually incredible when it gets sunnier. So I'm excited for you kind of as the spring and summer roll around because of that water and the waterfront, like the beaches that they have there. It's a dope city, man, especially when it starts to get warm. So we'll give it a little bit of time, and I think that you'll probably love it up there. Well, speaking of these cities, man, I wanted to ask you, just sticking off the field. I mean, you've been out here in Europe, in Germany, for quite a while. 2019 was your first year in Germany playing for Potsdam. Do you experience any big culture shocks coming from Georgia, coming from the American South to Germany? Probably for the first time, I'm guessing. Can you talk to me through kind of what that experience was like when you first came to Germany?
I had to get used to catching the train. I had to get used to catching the train everywhere and figuring out where to go because I drive my car at home.
Yep.
I get out here, I gotta catch the train at this time, catch the train at that time. And then being in big cities, being in the cities, it takes you 1 hour to get everywhere.
Right.
No matter how fast you walk, no matter how slow you walk, it takes you 1 hour. So now now I gotta leave the house 1 hour early when I'm so used to leaving the house 30 minutes early. So at the end of the day, I think the biggest culture shock was just the trains and the open policy that most Germans have. The open policy in everything they do, which is fine because I'm not used to seeing it, but the open policy and things like that.
You mean with the open policy, kind of how direct people can be?
How direct people can be
Yeah.
in the actions they do too. So it's very different. So,
It's different, man. But you're becoming a veteran out here, a European veteran. So looking at kind of your career, I mean, you've done so much, and now you're in an exciting new chapter. There's a bunch of young football players in Germany, in Europe, who are looking up to the ELF, who probably look up to you as a football player. What would be a piece of advice you would give to a young football player who wants to maximize their potential? Maybe they're a teenager and they're like, hey, man, I want to be a successful football player, be the best I can be. What would you tell them?
build your foundation and stay consistent. So wherever you trying to be, wherever position you're trying to play or anything, start practicing, start learning it, start learning about the game as far as who plays the position, who are the best players at the position, look at old films, look at, okay, how did this position perform to, how this position is made to today's world. From like when I was young, I used to watch old film of Lawrence Taylor, and that switched over to watching film of Von Miller. That switched over, well, not Von Miller first, but that switched over to watching James Harrison, then Von Miller. Now you have T.J. Watt, and from like the D tackle, you have the Fridge, all the way to Aaron Donald. And Aaron Donald changed into like Chris Jones to Cam Ward, Cam. So you learn all that, and them are different generations in different games, and them just a little bit. Of course, it's way more to it with like the Julius Peppers and everybody. So I say stay consistent and just build a foundation and just learn the game as much as possible.
I love that, man. And you just pointed to some really good kind of idols on the football field that people can look at, especially if you were talking about the defensive line position. Last question, Kyle, because you just mentioned a lot of NFL superstars. Super Bowl was this last weekend. What are your thoughts on the game? The Eagles absolutely stomped on the Chiefs. And I asked you last week, bro, I said, who do you like? And you said, I like the Eagles. That defense is pretty unstoppable. And you were right, bro. So what are your thoughts on the Super Bowl?
I say the Eagles defense just came to play. Like they was just after the quarterback. Anytime your front four can get to the quarterback no matter what, and you don't have to call a blitz, now that's a dangerous front four. Now that is playing in the hands of your passing defense. Plus your offense can score points at any time with the three weapons they have on their field with A.J. Brown, Smith, and Saquon. So they have weapons on there, and you just have to realize if you stay too high, now you got to stop their run game. If you stay one high, you got to stop their passing game. And then, of course, they can run with Jalen Hurts at any given time, too. So you have four weapons to worry about.
Yeah, I mean, that's – oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, snap. And once you get behind on their defense and you have to come passing because the Chiefs are on a timely scheduled game plan. Once they got off their game plan and they had to play in the hands of the Eagles defense, yeah, that's just good luck then. That's just like, hey, beat you with your best players now.
Yeah, good luck. How impressive is it that the Eagles got all that pressure on the defensive line with just a four-man rush? not blitzing at all, just their 4 down linemen getting all that pressure. How, from a defensive line perspective, how impressive is that?
That's very impressive. They was running twists and everything. Like, it's basically 4 against 5. My D-line, my 4 people are better than your 5 people that you have over there. And maybe 6 if you count the running back involved too.
Right.
But my 4 D-line is going to be better. It's not going to, but I think everything is done around Jalen Carter. So he's the piece that you have to control on that defense, which he's only like, 24, 25?
He's young.
A monster and just dominant.
Super impressive, man. There we go. We love to see defensive players, defensive linemen have success like that. Kyle, man, thank you so much for coming back on the ELF podcast. I think this one is going to work for us. Perfect. Yes. Appreciate you coming on, man. And we're all so excited in and around the league to have you, a guy like you in the league, and moving to a different team is very exciting, and we're thrilled for you, man, and good luck this season, everything you do on the field.
Thank you so much.